Hello and welcome. In this week's video, we're going to talk cameras, and I'm going to go over the considerations that you should make when it comes to choosing the camera that's going to work best for you. My name is Cree, and on this channel, I talk about tech with context. So I own a video production company, and probably the most asked question that gets sent my way is, what camera should I buy? So for those of you who want to upgrade from your phone camera to a real camera or a fancy camera, this video is really for you and the considerations that you should make. So the first thing I advise everyone to do is to figure out how you're going to use this camera. Look, there are so many cameras out there on the market, and the cameras that have come out in the last couple of years are just impressive. The specs on these cameras are amazing, and in most cases they're overkill. They're shooting 4K, you can shoot 120 frames per second to get nice slow motion, and they have all these megapixels, they're hybrid cameras, and whatever it is hard to narrow down. But the first thing, if you sit down and you just outline exactly what you're going to use this camera for, that's a good start. So are you just filming for social media? Will you be shooting landscape and vertical? Will you be using this camera for live streams or video conference calls? Are you also going to be providing video production services where maybe a 4K camera really does matter in your situation? So what are you going to be doing? What are you going to be using this camera for? List it out, and that's a good place to start. All right, the second is budget. Be realistic here. I do not recommend going in debt when it comes to purchasing any camera gear, even if it's just for personal use or for business use. There's so many different cameras out there that have different specs that will probably fit your needs. You don't need to go out there and spend tens of thousands of dollars. There is probably an option out there for you, so write this number down and stick to it when you're making this purchase. All right, you know what you're going to use this camera for. You have your list put together. You have your budget written down, and you're not going to spend more than whatever that number is that you've written down. All right, now I'm going to speak to a majority of you that are probably watching this video. You are going to use this camera for creating social media content. So this is on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever that platform might be, and you want to shoot in horizontal and vertical, all right? You might also use that same camera for live streaming and or video conference calls, or you might be looking to start a YouTube channel. So let's just go down that road. If you look at any of the brand new cameras on the market, most of them are shooting 4K now. And they're starting at least $1,200 without a lens. And yeah, these cameras are great. They're shooting 4K, but I would like to share with you that you do not need 4K if you're going to shoot in any of the circumstances that I listed at the beginning of this segment. That means you're shooting social media only, you might start a YouTube channel, you're going to be using this for live stream and video conference calls. Here's the thing, when you go live on a live stream or when you're on a video conference call, although your camera can shoot 4K, it does not stream at 4K, it does a max of 1080p. If you are shooting for social media, and this is for video and stills, you do not need 4K. You just need 1080p, because what happens is when you upload those videos to those environments, it's going to add compression, and then also the quality is good enough for a cell phone, for something you're going to post on social media. If you're going to be shooting photos, you don't need anything more than, I would say, 12 megapixels. So megapixels, larger size megapixels like 24, 60 megapixels, marketing loves to tout that as an advantage, but the truth is, if you're not going to print a photo out as a piece of art on a wall and you're just using it for your phone, you don't need any more than 12 megapixels. So what I would challenge you to consider is look at used cameras. Look at your budget, look at used cameras. This camera right here is the Canon M50 Mark II. This camera is discontinued, they no longer make it, but I use this camera more than any other camera that I own. I use it every day for video conference calls. I also use it to post social media footage. I just pair it with a high quality microphone so that I have nice audio. And I have the Sigma 16mm lens on here, which is equivalent to about a 24mm lens. And it's an f1.4 lens, which means it gives you that nice blurry background. And you could probably get this set up for around $1,000. That means body and lens. It is a discontinued camera and it is a discontinued lens mount system, but this is a great option and a great place to start. Sony has the a6500 and lower. They just came out with the a6700. So as these new cameras come out with 4K, 120, and all these bells and whistles, all these older cameras are going to go on sale, or you can pick them up at a lower price on the used market. So if you are using this camera for anything I listed at the beginning, again, you don't need to go out and buy a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 camera. Remember, once you're getting to this stage, you're buying a body and you're also buying a lens, and it gets pricey really fast. This next segment is for anybody who is shooting professionally. This is where I do recommend getting a 4K camera. Your clients are going to want the highest resolution. You can charge more money when you're shooting in a higher resolution. When you have a more expensive setup and more expensive equipment, that does justify being able to charge more for your services. And hey, when you show up on site and your client sees a high-end camera, they're getting smaller, but building this out to look like a cinema camera, then that also, in a weird way, justifies you charging more for your services. So that is the only time that I actually suggest you purchasing a 4K camera if you're looking to upgrade for the first time. I did touch on this a little bit earlier too. This camera is a lot more difficult to use than the Canon M50 Mark II, for example. So if you buy a super expensive camera, you have to learn how to use it. So it's actually a good idea to step up slowly. So buy a used camera. Doesn't have to shoot 4K to start. It's going to cover most of your needs, and learn how to use that camera. Learn how to use it in manual mode where you're setting the aperture and your ISO and your shutter speed. Go down that road, use that camera for a good year at least, and then consider upgrading. In the meantime, you're generating revenue for yourself. You should be able to afford that. Budget will go up over time, and then you can hop up into a more advanced camera. So the answer to the question is, what is the best camera to buy in 2023? Follow all these steps, figure out the camera that's going to work best for you. Any Sony or Canon or Fujifilm camera, any camera that's been launched and put out to market in the last 3 to 5 years, look at those cameras. And then once you learn how to use your camera, once you get more advanced in your video production services, and once you have a need for a more advanced camera, then that's when I suggest you looking further. So that's all I have for this week's video. If you like what you saw, subscribe down below and hit the thumbs up button. And thanks always for tuning in. I'll see you again in next week's video.